ladies and gentlemen, this is Carmine Sabia for Explain America, and yesterday was a wild day at the Supreme Court. Before we get started, please make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. Those little things really help us out, and they help our channel continue to grow. Yesterday at the Supreme Court, something really, weird happened. The justices were hearing a case about the Voting Rights Act, which it looks like they're going to strike down. They were hearing a case about the Voting Rights Act, and in hearing that case, Ketanji Brown Jackson, the liberal justice who was put on the court by President Joe Biden, or former President Joe Biden, Justice Jackson took that opportunity to compare black people, black voters, to disabled people. In other words, as if being black was a disability. It was maybe the craziest argument I've ever heard a Supreme Court justice make, and she made it. And it actually angered a lot of black people on the left and the right. And I don't blame them. Being black's not a disability. It's not. It's just a skin color. That's some crazy stuff as far as I'm concerned. I want you guys to watch this and let me know what you think in the comments.
Ingram, why are we even doing it tonight? Because whatever the court decides, it could determine who controls the majority in the midterms. Politico calling it a nightmare scenario for Democrats if the Supreme Court guts Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, because it could lead to as many as 19 seats going to Republicans. It's no surprise at all that Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson went all in on using race.
My kind of paradigmatic example of this is something like the ADA. Congress passed the Americans with Disabilities Act against the backdrop of a world that was generally not accessible to people with disabilities. Congress said the facilities have to be made equally open to people with disabilities if readily possible. I guess I don't understand why that's not what's happening here. The idea in Section 2 is that we are responding to current day manifestations of past and present decisions that disadvantage minorities and make it so that they don't have equal access to the voting system, right? They're disabled.
So being black is the same as being disabled. And when Justice Sonia Sotomayor tried to argue in favor of these black congressional districts, well, you be the judge about whether it went over so well.
There's just no reason to assume that because there's a large Democratic population in Louisiana that doesn't have a district, that that's a racial reason rather than a partisan reason.
If you can't separate out the two, it's impossible.
But you can separate out the two. You can control for party, and you can require them to draw a map that meets the political objectives. And again, and the last thing that you said earlier, that means Section 2 has no effect. That's not true. The examples I gave you earlier about areas like Harlem and in Florida where you have of the same party and of the state that controls that party, differences in the races, that's where Section 2 does work.
You have proof of that here?
No, you don't. What you have here is that Republicans and Democrats are different.
No, you have some that even white Republicans or white Democrats won't vote for black candidates.
Right, but if these were white Democrats, there's no reason to think they would have a second district. None. And so what is happening here is their argument is because these Democrats happen to be black, they get a second district. If they were all white, we all agree they wouldn't get a second district. That is literally the definition of race subordinating traditional principles.
I'm not sure if Justice Sotomayor even read the briefs in this case. I mean, did you read any of the briefs, any of it whatsoever? Luckily, my old boss, Justice